for that, you need to know everything about what happens in the production of, say, a folder. What exactly is a folder? Why we need to have a folder? Why should the PRO think about a folder for his organization, or why should his boss ask him to produce a folder? Why? What is the reason for that? Now, what exactly is a folder? Now, the present day generation, since computers have started, maybe since about 30 to 40 years onwards, we never had, doubt about folder in earlier days. But once computers came and people started having files and folders in their system, they have been having only one folder in their mind, that of a folder in a computer. So we put all the files in a folder. There's a so we put all in earlier days we used to put all the papers in a file, but later what happened, all the files have started entering a folder. So we are not talking about that folder in today's class. We will discuss about the production of a folder from the point of a tangible hard copy, which is normally distributed, given freely as part of your PR campaign with regard to perhaps your product, your services, or a little bit of information about your own organizations and all those things. So don't get confused with a folder in a computer, and also don't get confused with a folder in a stationery shop. Now, when you go to a stationery shop and when you ask him for a folder, he will give you one plastic sheet or a cover where that is known as you know, uh, a, a, a file folder where you put maybe you put your papers. So he thinks that is also a folder. So we are not talking about the folder from a computer. We are not talking from the folder of from a stationery shop. But we are talking about a printed product, which we call it as a folder. So why do we call it folder? It is something which is it is there in the name itself. It is something which is a sheet of paper, when it is folded, as I'm showing you now here. For instance, here I have it. Here I have a folder. So here is a 4-page folder. Because I folded it, it is a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I get a lot of folders. Today is Sunday. In my newspapers, I have at least 3 or 4 folders. One is about diagnostic services, one is about real estate, and one is about school children. You have online education, international school, vagaira vagaira. So it is only in the form of a folder. So it can be even in the form of this, okay, or this. So everything is now folded. Now here is a folder. So I have a folder where I can spread it out, and here I have so many pages. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have at the back side also, the on the reverse side also. So please remember that the purpose of this folder is to enable the reader to possess the copy, in his hands. And so, how do we do it? How do we produce this? So PRO, his aim is to see that the folder is attractive, it is beautiful, it is tempting the reader to go through the information that you might have printed, you might have designed, that you might have written, and you might have used a very beautiful photographs or illustrations. We discussed about photographs, illustrations, drawings, everything. So you want to provide some important information, maybe about a company, or maybe about an issue, or maybe about a product, or maybe a service. So all this, in the form of a combination of text and illustrations. So when next time when you lay your hand on any folder, try to see it from a PRO's point of view. Try to see, judge whether it is attractive, whether it is really confusing, or whether it is disturbing, whether it is really irritating you, annoying you, because it's not been produced in the manner that is pleasing to the eye. So the purpose of a folder is to first attract the reader, okay, and then provide all the information of a company, issue, product, service, or whatever it be that you want to do it. So it is a very powerful tool, powerful tool or a business tool or a device, provided you produce it in the right way. So we are discussing now the production of a folder. Okay. So what happens is that let me tell you one thing. Now you produce it with great difficulty and you distribute it, and someone picks it up from a reception desk or somewhere. It's quite possible that he may not even bother to read it and throw it aside. Then you feel terribly, hurt and sad that you took so much of pains to produce this folder, but it's not being seen in the manner that you expected it to be seen. So you should always think that when you are producing a folder, don't take it as a okay, we have to bring out a folder because the boss asked, because it's our department's duty to produce a folder. Mera kaam ho gaya, I have produced the folder. He wanted 1,000 copies, I have produced it and finished it. No, that is not the way a folder is produced. A PRO should take that seriously, and he should mean business when he trying to produce a folder. Whether it serves the purpose or anything is judged by the reader, or maybe by later by the audience over a period of time. So don't think that your folder is an utter flop within a fraction of a second. So give some time to decide whether your folder has succeeded. So producing a folder is a challenging piece. Okay, don't think it is just a formality and you finished it. And then so I would advise anyone to know what is a folder. What is the practical way of knowing a folder? Step into a bank, any bank, Axis Bank, HSBC. They have different folders, each folder explaining about a particular scheme, mutual fund, SIP, fixed deposit scheme, recurring deposit scheme, uh, gold loan, and then soon you're going to get gold from ATMs also. So we are going to have this kind of a thing. So you should be able to go to any bank or any corporate office, go to their reception and collect a couple of folders. The more the samples you collect, the more the idea you will have about how to produce a folder, even for your organization. I'm not saying that go to your bank and get those folders and copy it as it is. No, because a folder is a creative piece. So that bank fellow might have produced the folder from his perspective, from his point of view. Whereas in your case, it is not so. You are actually producing it with a what you call it as um, you are producing it as a kind of a what you call it as the piece. So you all just to have an idea what is a folder, get some folder samples from a couple of places, maybe a bank or maybe a government office, central government, state government, or a hospital, or anywhere. You go to a corporate hospital, you can get some folder. So you can see that what exactly it happens is that a folder introduces, a company or a product or a USP, universal selling point, and in a most economical and attractive form. You see, the information that you can give in a TV ad, which will cost about 30 to 40,000 for the 30 seconds that you spend, you can produce thousands of folders with that same amount and distribute it to so many people. So please remember, how best can you bring out a folder? This is very, very important for us. How economical it is and how attractive it is to bring this particular folder. So often you will find, in most of the bus stations or metro stations or malls or many public places in most of the developed countries, not that we are lagging behind. We can also, if you go to in any developed country, I remember visiting US where at a bus stand you get the folders. So that folder will give you about the buses that come to your bus stop and that leave your bus stop and to destinations, and in the process where all you can visit. I am a tourist, and I find this folder very useful. So I am making it useful. So this literature that is there in the folder is, for instance, very useful for a commuter, for a passenger, for a tourist, because he is able to know what are all the buses going to come, what is the frequency of the bus, which bus goes where, and in the on en route, what are the important places to see, are there any good hotels, is the food good. So much of information is given in a simple tool of public relations known as folder. Now you may say, what sir, I can as well Google everything. You can, yes, you can Google anything, everything. But again, it is dependent on your net. network facility and other things also. A folder with you will have no problem as such with regard to that. Suddenly you're going and then suddenly you're going out of calling area, you're gone. Your folder, your information is stopped in your on your mobile phone. So please remember, folders can be produced in different sizes and formats. So by and large, a PRO brings out a folder in such a way that the reader is able to hold it comfortably, open it, read it conveniently. It should not, create problems for him to handle this folder. So that depends on the size of the folder and the format of the folder. A format, when we talk about format, is it in a portrait format? Now, this is, for instance, is a portrait format. Okay. Now, when I turn this way, it is known as landscape format. Okay. Normally, the pocket folder can be, you know, a small one like A5 size or A4 size, completely folded, maybe slightly bigger, but not too big. You cannot go beyond a particular size, as it will be disturbing the way the folder is handled by the reader or by the user or by the end user. So please remember, so what will you do in this folder? You know, the present day, what is the present day trend? Is most of the readers are impatient, they don't have time, they are in a hurry, and they want to have as less information as possible, but at the same time they want it to be attractive. They want that to be understood in the form of a illustration. We discussed about diagrammatic representation. So if you are able to give some information or in the form of a photograph or in the form of anything, for instance, you are able to give how beautiful, for instance, is Hussein Sagar, and you are showing that in a folder, then that itself impresses the tourist to visit this place because it looks so impressive on this folder. I would like to see how it is when I see it really. So maybe you'll go in the evening and then see the lighting of the whole thing, the Buddha statue, the city skyline, the whole lights and everything, and that is what makes your folder a very attractive piece for anyone. So another important area is in the production. When you're bringing out a folder, you also look into the economic factor of it. So there is a saying that one should have the cake and eat it too. So when you are trying to produce a folder, you should also keep the economic factor at the same time without compromising the attractive values of the folders. So this is very, very essential for us. And so if sometimes what happens, PRO is not sure whether you want 500 or 1000. Okay. So you may think why 500 means maybe too less, 1000 maybe too many. Why don't we go in for via media like 750, for instance? But at the end, but at the end, 250 folders may remain idle and unused, and may become a mere waste of money and material. So always remember that sometimes what is essential, there are two ways. Nowadays, we have two ways of getting the folders. Now you can say that you don't need more than 100 folders. Yeah, you can have that. So in the production of folder, please remember as a PRO, if the need is only for 100 or 50 or 100, then you have a particular method of producing the folders. You will use a particular technique or a method of producing these particular folders, the printing process, because you are now looking into not simply the appearance point of view, but also the economy point of view. This is very, very important for all of us. So please remember, a PRO tries to save lots of money for the organization. He saves the money in the form of rupees and paise, or what we call it as dollars and cents. So you can be very careful, try to spend as little as possible and get the best out of this thing. Suppose you don't need more than 100, then what to do? How would you go? A small number of copies. A particular process doesn't allow you to produce only small number of copies. So in printing, what happens? In production, what happens is that we have different printing processes. Each process has its own economic compulsions. So you cannot think of producing, say, 100 folders in, say, a particular process known as offset. You have only 100 folders. You can't force your organization to say that you get printed 1000. only you need 100. Why do you want to waste 900? So 900 will be lying in your in your locker just for nothing, and maybe you don't even use it. 900 folders is money. Please remember. You please remember, every printed sheet is nothing but a sort of money for it. It may not be the currency and a note like 10 rupees each piece, but each piece costs some money, maybe 2 rupees or 3 rupees, depending on the nature of the folder that you want to bring out. So, number of copies to be printed should be decided upfront by the PRO in consultation with the people who asked you to produce the same. So, suppose the marketing people have asked you to produce 500 folders. So, make sure once again with him, sir, are you sure 500? Because after 500 are printed, don't ask for another 500. Better if you have 2,000 copies, and then you need not ask. Over a period of time you can use it. No, 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 I don't need so many. I need only 100 copies. That's all he will say, marketing. So, make sure about that and see that he is able to convey that in writing to you. So this is very, very essential. Now, what happens? How is this folder produced? So first you have to do a sort of a planning. You know that for every work we need to do planning. After all, even when you're starting from your home to your office and return to home, you do planning. You know what to do today. When I step out of the house, what are the other things to do on the way while returning, whom to meet, where to meet, when to meet, why to meet, how to meet. All say you are going to decide upfront, and you are doing some kind of a planning. Now we need to design a folder. So what is the first stage of production of a folder is a PRO ensures that the entire information is gathered, like the text, like the illustrations, and this is, and he also gets the information as to who is going to read it, whom you are going to give it, how much money are you ready likely to spend, what should be the budget for you for this folder. These are all the questions you will be posing to, and get the answers and keep the answers ready. So this, the first stage is, once we assure that the matter is gathered, like the text, like the illustrations, like the headlines and everything. When it is ready, then what you do first thing is to design. The first stage is to design with the material available. When I say material available, it is the text and the illustrations. So how do you do it? So what you do is you produce layout. We discussed what is a layout also. So we position these elements, whatever you have given, the text and the illustrations, beautifully in such a way that you produce one design. And maybe you can take a printout also in color. You can take out in color. The present day technology is very, very very, very useful for your boss to approve it, because you're almost giving a printed copy as if it has been printed on the big machine or the real printer printing press. So please remember, you can produce about two or three alternate designs. Now, who prepares this design? Now, you as a PRO, perhaps, or you or editorial department people, one of you can sit with the DTP operator and explain to him how you are expecting the design to look like. So once you give him the inputs, he will listen to you, and he will himself prepare a layout on his system, and he produces one design. So this is how your folder is going to look. He will show it to you on the monitor. So when you see on the monitor, what you are seeing is known as a soft copy. But you may tell your operator, no, no, I don't want soft copy because I have to show it to my boss, and I can't take my laptop and tell him to force him to see like that. He may say, I will see it later. You go. So what you do is you tell this guy to give you a hard copy, a printout. So a printout, a color printout, almost on the same paper on which you want to print. You want to print on a very good quality paper, so you can tell him to give a printout. So like that, he will give you three printouts of three alternate designs that you produce beautifully, three sheets. Put it in a file and take it to your boss. Or sometimes what you can tell him is that you can ask your boss and the other people who are all responsible for confirming, for approving your folder, what you can do is take a soft copy in your pen drive, put it in for your LCD projector and show it on the screen. So this is how we have designed one folder, two folder, three designs. Can you please approve? Then once he sees on the wall, he sees on the screen how beautiful is the folder. He may want to tell you, no, no, I don't want to see on the screen. It's only a soft version. I want to have a tangible hard copy. So take three designs and circulate it to him. So this is one of the area way you get the approval of one of the three designs that you have submitted. So once you get the approval, okay, once you get the, you know, the second stage is that you ensure that everything is in place. So you go through carefully, and you're going to read it carefully, and you are going to ensure that it is zero error. So there has to be no mistake whatsoever. The greatest thing about printing is that in production of any publication or a newspaper, for that is that at least in precision engineering we have tolerance levels, plus or minus, plus or minus, we can say 1 millimeter. But that kind of a situation is not there in case of printed publication. We can't say oka tappu unte parvaledu, oka tappu akkada okada unte parvaledu. No question of that. We have to ensure that it is 100% error free. So please remember that you are checking the text, you're checking the illustration, the captions, and everything, the entire thing thoroughly, and that is now approved, and that proof is approved, and that why it is known as a proof, because it's now a document that has been approved. And most of the things, how are you going to get these folders printed? So please see that the folders are properly. So once the proof is approved, once the design is approved, once you give green flag to the printer or the printing press owner, he will produce the folders. And his duty is to see that they are neatly packed, and they are given to you in such a way that you are able to store it in a safe place, and so that it is protected with a cover, so that the sunlight doesn't fade the color of the folder, and for longevity, and for that print to look new and not dull. What happens to the printed folders or anything when you leave it in the open? After 3 months, it becomes pale yellow. So you'll have to preserve that particular freshness of your folder, which is normally in a very packed form, and preserve it in such a way that the folders look as if it was printed yesterday, even after 3 months or 4 months. So we call it as longevity and newness of the printer. So this should be maintained successfully. Please remember that the number of copies we should adopt, should be, you should be very judicious. You can be a bit liberal, you can be a bit rigid. You can't be too penny wise and pound foolish. Only 20 copies you print, and later you can't, you tell that fellow comes back and tells you, I want another 100 copies. No, you should be able to educate your people about the economics of producing a folder, if you take a proper decision about the number of copies that you want to print. This is very, very essential for all of us. So please remember, always there is one thing when it comes to distribution. So once the folders are ready, and when the folders are going to be distributed, you be judicious in distribution. Do not give it freely as if it is finished. I finished printing and now distributed. Don't distribute it freely. Distribute it judiciously, because remember that this folder costs money, that this folder represents a value, that this folder may be worth 2 rupees or 3 rupees. The information may be worth 200 rupees or 300 rupees, but this folder is worth 2 or 3 rupees. And just because it is only 2 or 3 rupees, assume that you have wasted 1,000 folders, and you're not bothered to, you just wasted them. You wasted 2,000 rupees just for nothing. So essential thing is that you'll have to show your discretion in giving these folders. So normally in any place when you see, sometimes people take four copies. Why does he need 4 copies? You will have to stop him from taking so many copies. Only one copy, or you yourself can give it. This is how the folders are treated. And They are produced depending on the nature of the organization. Infosys, Google, they can afford to spend a lot of money. They have a lot of money, millions of dollars they have got, and this doesn't even cost a few hundreds of dollars. So that is what they will produce, and they will at the same time ensure that this is used judiciously. So just because it's a big organization, just because it has got money, it doesn't mean that you waste money. You'll have to be very judicious, because all of us know that drops of water make an ocean. So do not think just folder is only a small thing like a drop of water in an ocean. But please remember, all the drops put together only form an ocean. So do not underestimate the role of a folder when it comes to the number of copies that you would like to print. Now this is all about what is known as the folder part of it. So folder is one area which is what we call it as used as a tool by the PRO. And then the next type of production that we will discuss is what is known as brochure. So, what exactly we mean by brochure? Why it's called a brochure? Why is a brochure called a brochure? We need to know why it is actually called as brochure. So many times people, spell it wrongly. Okay, please see that it is spelled properly. Um, 1 second. So I'm going to tell you what exactly is this. Many a time, our people get confused with a folder and a brochure. For a folder, they say it's a brochure. For a brochure, they say it's a folder. But strictly speaking, academically speaking, theoretically speaking, brochure is something where a stitch is made. A stitch is made. Okay. Let me find out and let me know what from where that word has been derived. Okay. Please wait so that you will be able to know what we mean by that. 1 minute. So it's a small book, or sometimes it's a magazine. If you see dictionary, it tells that it is a small book or magazine containing pictures and information about a product or a service. Okay. One minute, please. So the concept of a brochure is to ensure that Stitch is there. If you see in a folder, we didn't have any stitch. We have not stitched that or sewn that in one end of the brochure. So it is a normally it's a paper document, okay, and often confused as a flyer, pamphlet, leaflet. Everybody will talk everything. Actually, brochures are actually what they are. According to our Helmut Kipman, he is an author of a very great book, Handbook of Print Media. He said brochures are commercial print work. So they are generally printed in color and are available either as folded individual sheets or stitched or bound copies. So they are bound copies. Please remember they are all bound copies. So they are the pages are all intact and they are not loose. And then what is happening is that so there these words like folders and brochures. Folders we already discussed. They are liberally used for each other. Okay, if someone brings a folder and says, here is a brochure, someone says it's a brochure and here is a folder. So please remember, in case of in North America, it's a different connotation. In a traditional sense, in a theoretical sense, in the way that has been there over a period of, so many years, or conventionally speaking, traditionally speaking, the a brochure is either stitched or sewn or is bound. It has a cover also, okay, where so than an unstitched one sheet folder. So there is a distinct variation between a brochure and a folder. Please remember, in folder we don't have any stitches or anything. What happens in case of a brochure is we do in case of a folder we just fold it and then leave it. But in case of this, we fold it and then we also stitch it so that all the pages are intact and you are able to open one page after the other. So please remember, when you get into a tourist bus, for instance, you get the description so nicely, and then you are able to see a particular book or anything. So please remember, there is what is known as creativity, quality. This is very and economy. These are the three things that need to be very carefully monitored if you want to bring out, be it a folder that we already discussed or be it a brochure. So we need to be very, very careful. And many people get confused with the spelling of brochure. Even in our course material, there's a slight spelling mistake. What is brochure? BROCHURE, not BROUCHER. So please remember that is the thing about the brochure. So we discussed about folder, we discussed about brochure. Now let us see what we mean by annual report. So what exactly is an annual report? Why it's called an annual report? What is the significance of an annual report? What is the purpose of an annual report? Now, as the name implies, it is a report or it's something which is produced once in a year. But then, because it's produced once in a year, it becomes a very prestigious publication. And the annual report is all about the entire information that is given about the general and the economic health of your organization. And to whom do you give this? To all the people who are directly or indirectly connected to your organization. It can be their shareholders, it can be your suppliers, it can be your users, it can be your employees. It is a comprehensive report of what exactly your company does throughout the or did throughout the earlier year. So this from one said from April 2021 to March 2022. We are now in March. We can bring out one annual report of mentioning these 12 months. What are all the things that have taken place, and so that your shareholders know where their money has gone and what they have done, whether they have put any buildings, what about their CSR activity, what about their financial performance, how much revenue has come, how much expenditure has taken place. So entire thing is published in this particular annual report. So sometimes it's also known as gray literature because you will have the different shades of good, bad, and the ugly also. So please remember, the annual reports are nothing but like a report card that your child submits once in a year. The report card, which tells the progress of the, of your boy all through the of your boy or a girl through all through the year. So these are all important, important financial communication that you give. So what do you normally? What do you do? Why do readers need this information? So they'll have a general picture. This information gives the reader an idea as to how your company is performing, and what are the shortcomings, what are the achievements. All those things can be easily known by the readers. So that is it's easy for. And then the PR, it's also a good PR activity. Please remember that the production process of this particular thing is that annual report is a prestigious publication. Okay, it's a prestigious publication. It reflects the dignity of the company. Okay, it is not. Don't think it is simply a PR exercise. No, it is a PR exercise because the title cover and all, you're printing it in a best manner possible, because the cover of the annual report itself speaks about your seriousness in bringing out a publication in a very dignified, attractive, and no nonsense manner. So this is very essential for us to know that you're able to bring out, and this is how actually, uh, what is essential for us is that while you get the contents which is completely given by your organization, okay, how you put this content, how do you make this text and the illustrations are kept in place? What are there? Is there adequate diagrammatic representation in your annual report so that the reader is able to understand it very easily? And how do you go about producing it? Because I told you it's a prestigious publication. Your boss is ready to spend 30 to 40 rupees per copy, or 50 rupees, or even 100 rupees a copy. So what do you do? So what exactly you do is that when this is given away to various printers, you will be outsourcing this production of your annual report. So you have the file ready, with text, with illustrations, design, layout, and everything is ready to ready to be sent to a printer. So at that time, you will also ensure that you have the best of the content, your best of the illustrations, your best of the captions, and all are there, and you have one of the best layout you have produced, and you have put them in the form of a file format. Either you are now in the form of file and your soft copy, and you are giving this to the printer to give you the hard copies. Maybe you get some 500 printed or 1,000 printed, depending on the number of people who are going to attend the annual meeting. So annual meeting, that is when actually this is distributed among the audience, or mailed to the shareholders who may be spread all over the world. Everyone is entitled to that copy. Of course, nowadays everybody is saying you download the soft copy. If you want, you take a print at your end. Otherwise, they will also send you by mail, by post. They will send you the copies. What is essential for us is that the information that you gather is complete in all respects, because only then you will can move forward, because all the pages should be there in place. And as you please remember, one of the most thing which a PRO every time commits a mistake is he doesn't have the information in toto, and he with the bits and pieces he starts, and when it's about to be printed, he says stop, stop, stop. There is some more information to be covered. No. So please ensure as a PRO to see that the entire material is there. When I say material, it is text, illustrations, captions, all the information is there. Then only you can move forward. Do not wait, do not tell them, you go ahead, we will give you some more pages. No. You can perhaps to some extent plan a bit like that also, but please see that it is properly planned. And do not think that the number of pages in annual report also matter a lot. Please remember, if your document is say, if your document is say 38 pages, then where do you want the blanks? Where do you want the blank? Where it should be content page? Where it should be the prologue or anything? So please remember, when you want to use color, better talk to your printer also to ensure that the color they print is the color you are expecting. So ensure that the color that you are expecting is the same that your printer is also showing in the file, and he is able to. He may, please remember, on a computer screen, this is one of the mistakes majority of the PROs, commit, is on the screen they see your annual report title cover, but when printed, you will suddenly find there is a difference of what you have seen on the screen and on a paper. Yes, there will be a difference. That's why it's always better to take one hard copy before you give approval to that person to print the rest of the copies. Please remember, your screen is a glassy material, is a glossy material. It's a shining thing. It's a screen. Okay, it's a soft version. But your paper is something. It is not as smooth as you see your screen. Now it may look smooth, but if you see magnifying glass, you will be surprised to see this paper full of grain, full of mesh also. You put it with your this thing, you may see some pixels on a screen. So there is a perceptible difference between what you see on a screen and between what you see on the paper. Same applies with the color, because we have one theory known as RBG, okay, red, blue, green on the screen, but that is not the thing which we have it on the paper. On the paper, we call it as cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. So there is a difference between how you see the color on the monitor and how you see the color on the paper. So do not judge by the color on the screen and say that your printed sheet is not up to the standard of what you might have approved. So please see on the screen, approve it, take one printed copy and have an idea of how it will look when it is printed. So now two things can happen. One is what you have seen on the screen and what you have printed, you might have liked this because this is looking better than what you have seen on the screen. Number two, what you've seen on the screen was looking different and this is looking different. You are unable to match these two and you don't like this because you liked what is already on the screen. So please remember that this is something where you'll have to show your discretion and uh, tell your boss also not to be misled by what is shown on a projector or on a monitor or on a cell phone and what is actually printed on the paper really. So this is a perceptible difference PRO should always try to have. So always remember, get a proof of that, get a hard copy, and then you see that it has got a thing. And then also sometimes the annual report, maybe it's named. Sometimes you can have a watermark also, or a pattern of the pages. What every product can be, secured with some security feature. You can do that nowadays because to avoid any faking or any duplication or any counterfeiting. So please remember, another important area that you need to do is to ensure how many copies you need. Think twice before you tell the number of copies that you want to print, because each copy costs money. Each book may cost, annual report may cost 20 to 25 rupees. So suppose you say 1,000 more, which means 25 into 1,000, 25,000 rupees. You have unnecessarily, you know, wasted the money. So you please at the same time don't be too penny wise and pound foolish. Say I want only 50 because there are only 50 people. No, don't do that also, because quite possible after printing 50 you say another 50. It will take a lot of. It will be very counterproductive. It will be very expensive also. So please remember, as we said earlier, creativity, quality, and economy. All the three should have to go hand in hand, without which it's impossible for you to have. So please remember, whenever you want to, there are certain do's and don'ts, and prevention is better than cure. When it comes to printing, please don't hurry through. Check thoroughly, check carefully, check twice, check thrice. But there's no point of checking once the printing has commenced, because that is too late. So you can't undo the damage once you have printed the annual report. So always check whether you know your document is correct, whether everything is in place, whether the entire information has come, whether illustrations are there, whether layout has been done properly, whether page numbers are there in sequence, are they in correct, ek ke baad do aaya, do ke baad teen aaya, whether all the text fonts are used correctly. You will have a particular style have used, and whether any spellings, always check for your spelling, check for grammar error, and ensure that the report is consistent. So do not see, you should not see. Uh, so please remember that everything is positioned correctly on the top of the page. Left side, left headline; right side, right headline. Sometimes we call it a chapter headlines. So chapter headlines repeat throughout the chapter on the left side and the right side of the entire chapter. Or sometimes the book title is also mentioned throughout the book, either on the left side or the right side, the title of the book. So these are all the some of the things that you need to know: the background or color or design. You know, everything that you do should be able to, ensure that you are able to bring out the publication in time, in the best manner possible, with zero error rating, and also ensure that it is also produced in the most economical manner. So please check the print quality also of everything that you print on your annual report. So sometimes what happens, the document is there. Sometimes what happens, you nowadays nobody is printing annual reports. जिसको भी चाहिए तो आप आपके तरफ प्रिंट कर लो, एक कॉपी ले लो. So nowadays we are not doing that. Also now people are not printing. Also sometimes, or those who want to print can also. So please remember, just when the annual report is ready to go for printing, please check that again and again, that once it is gone, you are not allowed to enter in the printing press. So don't do it in a casual manner. Oh, ये तो हर साल करते हैं. Is a thing. It's a formality. We have to fulfill this legal requirement also. Annual report is a legal requirement also. So don't think in those lines. Whatever you produce is the best manner possible you produce. That is very essential. So what exactly is that? Size of the report? How bulky is the report? Extent of content, copy and format editing required. So how much staff is available to undertake this work? Many people are involved in this. Some people are involved in getting the text, some people are involved in getting the illustration, some people are involved in layout. Okay, all these things are undertaken, and everything is checked thoroughly before the word okay is put on the final proof. So please remember, it's more an ideal situation. Please remember that you should take it cool. There should not be any tension, because the heat picks up when they tend to, that act. As you keep acting, you will be having the heat also. I mean, the it generates the dynamism that is really needed. But please remember, no indecision should be there. Okay. No, no, I have to wait. I have to get the clearance from the boss. The boss says, "Give me some more time. I want to think over this." That should not be there. Then don't send it to the printing press. Keep it with you only. Only after everything is ready, only when everything is ready, then only please move forward. Otherwise, you will be blamed for the delay. PRO both delay kar diya. PRO can't go and tell because sir, you didn't give the material properly. So better PRO doesn't give the order to the printer. Prevention is better than cure. And he should ensure, and he should make it very clear to his boss that the that because of so and so, the delay has taken place because of so and so. No need to go into self defense. You should try your best to see, help those who may not be knowing the production process. You have to lead them, guide them to ensure that the annual report is properly brought out. So is the case. I have seen many times annual reports printed, dumped in one corner of the company. Nobody bothers about proper preservation of that, or nobody bothers about distribution of that. So it is like how you suppose your company has printed calendars in the month of December. So your distribution should be over by January maximum 5th. But we have some more copies. I went to the other day one college, in the month of March now, and I asked them, one big bundle, about 6 feet of calendars were lying there. I said, why have you printed each calendar costing about 10 rupees? About 1,000 calendars were there, 10,000 rupees was locked up there. And why it's only month of March? Why didn't you distribute it? So many PROs commit this mistake. So is the case with your annual reports. You may print 5,000 annual report, but you are not distributed to the 5,000 people. You are not mailed them. You are not just kept them because okay, purpose is served over that formality over CA submitted copy, annual report released, and that's all. No, that should not be the case. If you have printed 5,000, you printed with a purpose. You printed with the purpose of ensuring that it reaches 5,000 hands, all the people it reaches. So if it doesn't serve that purpose, then what is the use? So do not, when we say production of corporate publications, we do not stop only with producing the annual report. We should also ensure that the annual report reaches the target audience with the same objective that you had before starting the production of the annual report. This is very, very important for you to know. Otherwise, I have seen calendars lying like the diaries unused. What is the use if you are still giving diaries in the month of March or April or May? Then that fellow will tell you, why didn't you give me in the next year? So please remember, many times I have seen people printing beautiful calendars, but you are not giving it. So at least distribute it freely. Go to some place and give it to someone. Somebody will use it. A calendar, for instance, it is put in his room. It is itself a silent salesman. So please ensure that whatever you do, whether it's an annual report or a folder or a brochure that we have so far discussed, distribution is also a part of completion of production. No, no, my job is over. I printed, sir, and I have given it to you. Yes, as a printer, I print it and then I give it to Godrej Company, their annual report. But you can also help the Godrej Company saying that since you have printed without even sending these books to Godrej Company, if Godrej Company gives the printer the mailing list, the printer himself will dispatch it also, will distribute it also, because he has a dispatch mechanism, he has a distribution mechanism from where he is able to send his copies. So this is where I have seen many times PROs fumbling and failing and bringing loss to the company to the extent of some thousands of rupees. And please remember, today's thousand is tomorrow's lakh. 1,000 rupees today, tomorrow, the whole thing, when you try to see over a period of 10 years, how much you have wasted, you will be wondering whether you are fit to hold that particular job there as a PRO. So please remember that you'll have to be very, very careful about what you are trying to do. So please remember, we have discussed so far. Then we have what is known as production of manuals and handbooks. So what is a manual? Many times we say manual. Manual is a how to do, what to do, step by step, some kind of a guide for beginners and practitioners. So you go by the book. We call it as a rule book. We call it as a reference book, and it is known as a manual because it is read manually. Every man or every person reads it. Doesn't mean woman doesn't read. Every person reads it. So please remember, a manual details what is given and what is required, how to put the information, okay, into practice. So manual gives a very clear. Many times we buy TV, they give along with it one manual. The instructions. When you buy a medicine also, there is a small sheet of paper folder that is also something like instructions to you on how you should take the medicine, what exactly is the medicine consisting of. So please remember, many a time manual is also confused or is used as handbook because you hold it by hand. It is also known as a handbook. What is the significance of this manual? It is supposed to be authentic. It is supposed to be official. In government language, it is known as official. So please remember the rules framed by the organization. It can also be contested in a court of law. A manual, for instance, sometimes a machine manual is there. Sometimes services manual is there. So for a layman, when he buys a product, for instance, take TV or air conditioner or a car or a motorbike, he is provided with a neatly printed manual. When you buy a software, also you are provided with a manual, printed manual. If you buy any Photoshop, software, graphic arts program, you are given a printed manual, and that is itself what is that you are able to operate the machine yourself without anybody's guidance. So the manual is so beautifully brought out, so usefully explained, so diagrammatically explained. So even sometimes an uneducated fellow also can see what is this diagram and then he can go about. You have seen in construction activity, most of the people who build houses and all, please go and talk to them. Most of them are uneducated. Most of them are masons, most of them are workers, most of the people who put bricks and all that. But you please show them a diagram and you will be able to immediately understand and just do that according to the diagram that is given to him. So please remember, manuals are also brought out either in a portrait format or in a landscape format. So diagrams can be used and they can be bound actually. They can be bound also. It can be in the form of a spiral binding or a hard bound. So we can call it as a perfect binding and other things also. So please remember, next time when you buy a car or buy a motorbike or buy any product, consumer product like mixie or washing machine or oven, please see whether it gives you a manual, and that manual will give you do's and don'ts, hazards, accidents, preventions, what all you should do and what all you should not do is so beautifully printed, so beautifully laid out, so beautifully arranged that you are able to read it with lot of convenience. This is very important. Lot of money is spent on manual. So if your mixie is about say 8,000 or 7,000, please remember that at least 30 to 40 rupees are spent on the manual also, depending on the kind of the paper that they use or how it is actually brought out. So this is all about the some of the publications we have discussed today are the production of folder, production of brochure. Okay, we have discussed about production of annual report. We discussed about production of manuals and handbooks. So in the next class, we will try to discuss the next Sunday the production of other publications in continuing unit 7 of block 3. Okay, now I have 2 more minutes. I don't know whether you are there. If you're not there, nobody is there, I think so. So I don't have anything to have in terms of doubts. But if you have, I have my number. All of you can WhatsApp your questions to me. I'm giving my number here. I'm also giving you my mail address so that you can also uh, shoot questions through mail. Okay. So you can try to send me the questions even through this also. Okay, so much, so far so good. And I think I have taken today. I have explained sufficiently block 3 and unit 7 under the broad headline of what is known as production techniques. Production, the whole our subject itself, as you know, is production of corporate publications. So every publication is given its significance, its importance, its value, its price. It costs money. So you'll have to know a PRO is responsible for bringing out all this. So with this, I think I'll be ending my class. I have a minute more to go, and I hope I can now leave the class. Yeah, it's now 11 o'clock sharp. Thank you.